Hello, everybody, and happy Tuesday. Welcome to another edition of Coach Leah's After the Whistle. As promised, I just returned from Vegas, and normally what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But since we had some behind the scenes coverage of all things All Star Weekend, we're going to tell you a little bit about what happened in Vegas. Let's go. I am your host, Coach Leah. Welcome to Coach Leah's After the Whistle. Now, listen, before we get started, there's a couple of things that I want to tell you guys about. I kind of try to get started with some trending topics and some shameless plugs. My first shameless plug is this. I want to wish my pastor, Dr. Marcus D. Cosby, senior pastor of Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church, a happy birthday. Today, July 18th, is his birthday. And sir, I want you to make sure that you have the happiest birthday ever. And as as a member of your staff and as a member of Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church since 2009, I'm just so honored and humbled to be shepherded by you. So that's the first one. Second shameless plug. Tall Girls United was featured in a recent edition of Monarch magazine, and we'll go more into that on another episode. But if you ever get a chance to check out Monarch magazine, it can be found at airports, Barnes and Nobles, and on newsstands everywhere. So, matter of fact, if you don't see it at the place where you like to get the things that you like to read, ask for it and just find out if it can be something that can be purchased at your favorite place where you buy magazines or books or whatnot. One of the things that you want to remember when asking about Monarch is it's considered elite lifestyle. So you want to say that when you're looking for Monarch magazine. But the spread that they did for Tall Girls United, they showed us so much love and it's beautiful. So you'll want to check that out. So, last shameless plug. I really want you guys to check out The Conversation with Al McFarland, weekdays at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time and on demand. YouTube.com. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You know, our numbers are inching up. They're inching up, but we would love for everybody who tunes in to just like, subscribe, and then share. Those are very important. Like, subscribe, share. We really need your help to support this platform because we want to do bigger and better things and we can't do it without you. So please be sure to do that. So now let's get on with a little more of what's happening with our behind the scenes in Vegas. So the first thing that I want to do regarding that is introduce you to a dear friend of mine from Houston who played a huge part in All-Star Weekend for the Las Vegas Aces, who were the hosts for the WNBA. And her name is Danielle Fontenot. A little bit about her. She is a wife and the mother of two daughters, ages 6 and 9. She was the 11th overall pick in the 2002 WNBA draft. She played professional in 5 different countries, in addition to her play in the WNBA. She received her bachelor's degree at Baylor University and a master's in counseling from Liberty University. She's a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority and is known as a wellness synergist, as well as a philanthropist. But wait, there's more. Danielle is a catalyst for transformation, guiding women on their journeys to wholeness through her inner work, with an E, experience. From seasons of emotional division and unfulfillment, countless women have embarked on their paths of self-discovery, with Danielle finding wellness and wealth. Having excelled as a record-breaking basketball star at Baylor University and in the WNBA, as well as international professional basketball leagues, Danielle expresses gratitude for the opportunities and experiences that shaped her early years. However, she shares that her success on the court was overshadowed by the silent suffering of childhood sexual abuse, which left her emotionally disconnected and unworthy. Confronting these deep-seated emotions helped Danielle realize that her greatest opponent was herself. Through her own challenges and growth, Danielle now empowers other women to transform their trash emotions into fuel for personal empowerment and emotional balance. Danielle's teachings revolve around the importance of emotional intelligence and authenticity, guiding women to align their purpose and passion with financial success. Through online courses, speaking engagements, workshops, and her forthcoming book, Hidden in Division, she shares her personal journey of turning pain into pleasure. To attain true self-mastery, Danielle believes in exploring and embracing every aspect of our emotional well-being, enabling us to experience the freedom and wealth that comes from embracing our authentic selves. In Danielle's new role as the executive director of the WNBA World Champion Las Vegas Aces Foundation, she plans to collaborate with stakeholders and effective personal development programs to support positive change in the Las Vegas greater community. Danielle brings her passion and expertise to new heights, advocating for youth and women's well-being on and off the court. Danielle Fontenot, welcome to Coach Leah's After the
Liberty
Whistle.
University to get my master's in human services, so counseling. As an inner work coach, in short, what that means is that I help women build a better relationship with themselves. The longer version is that I coach women through a process that I came up with that allows them to break through internal blockages that they have that's preventing them from tapping into their true potential, purpose, talents, and abilities.
Danielle Fontenot, welcome to Coach Leah's After the Whistle.
Hey, Leah. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. We were texting the other day, and you gave me a nickname.
Lately,
Yes.
I almost said it just as I jumped in. I was like, listen, I felt like that was something that, like, I would have called you that if we were childhood friends. So I think it was cute. So thank you for letting me use that real quick.
Absolutely. Listen, you can use that. You can continue to use that. I know we throw the word sister around a lot, which I truly believe that since we've met, we have become sisters indeed. But you definitely can call me Lily. I like that. I like
Well,
that.
thank you very much.
So I start all of my interviews with my featured guests stating that I truly believe that there's 1 degree of separation with me and pretty much everybody else on the planet. And our first degree of separation was even probably a half a degree. It wasn't even a degree. It wasn't even a whole degree. So one of my dear friends and sisters in Christ at my church, Ashley White, introduced me to you, or told me about you before we actually were introduced. Once I told her that I was starting our Tall Girls United initiative with our dear friend Sylvia Crawley-Spann. And when as soon as I mentioned that, she was like, "Oh my God, you've got to be Danielle." And I'm like, "Okay." And so she exchanged numbers. She gave you mine. She gave me your number. She gave you my number. I finally reached out. We connected. And upon the first not even 2 minutes of our conversation, we then realized that you played with Sylvia.
We did. I thought that was that's what I call like synchronicity, right? It's those serendipitous moments that it's like there's no way that you could have planned it out like that yourself. It was just divine alignment. So it was really cool to know that my sorority sister linked me in with you when we were already connected in spirit through Sylvia. So that was pretty awesome.
Yes, absolutely. And the fact, even more so, the fact that you and Sylvia share such a strong kinship. So
Yes.
that it was just seamless. It was absolutely seamless that we all be working together on this initiative, almost from the inception. And so I want to thank you for being on this journey with us in regards to Tall Girls United. But I want to dive in to Danielle Fontenot's inner work, because I tell you, just you really you resonate just joy in the work that you do, and it's so infectious. So, how do you define inner work, and why do you believe it is so vital for women?
Inner work, as you mentioned, I spell inner work, or the work part, with an E. And the E is so important because that is our emotional mastery. And so I feel like the true work is done within. And so internally, and that's mastering our emotions, which is energy in motion. And so I believe that once you're able to know how you feel about the things that you were doing, or be able to control that in some sense, then life just actually starts to align a lot better when your head and heart are in sync with each other.
Nice. And so, as you decide to, as you decided that this was something that you couldn't keep to yourself, that you just had to make sure that it was a platform that you could support others, what has been your greatest discovery while you were on your inner work journey?
That's the thing. It's the greatest discovery was myself. I'm like, I'm literally the greatest discovery that this world has yet to see. And I want everyone to feel like that, especially women, and even furthermore, women of color, because once you know yourself and your behavioral patterns and the way that you move through this existence, there is something that happens. And I really believe that that's clarity. And we all want to be clear on what we're doing, why you're here, your life's mission, purpose. And I think the biggest part of that mission is to know yourself.
Right. I always talk about when you're self aware, then that's the first step for self care. I think I need to put that on a t shirt. It's so,
I think
it's,
so too.
yeah, it's people kind of throw around mental wellness and self care, not truly knowing that it's a thing that you have to be very intentional about. It's just not something that you're going to wake up one day and just, that it's going to happen for you if you don't make that decision. And you many times can't even make that decision until you're aware that a decision has to be made. Like I often in my coaching practice, I often find where primarily women are saying, I know I need something, I just don't know what. So that's at first kind of the innerest, the sign. And then I would say the second thing is that they've actually articulated it to say, hey, I need some help, right? And so I feel like you specifically in the work that you do, because you've laid out such a wonderful platform for that next stage of, okay, so now how do we do it? So
Exactly.
that's that part, right? so,
That's the
so
thing that people want to know. Like, how do I actually do this? And what's my starting point? And that's the question, like, where do I start? And when you ask, where do you start? Like, I believe that that's the first thing, is that people want to know where you are. And the best place to start is to become present. And so to be actually become present, most often what we need to do is slow down, because like you said, Leah, it is a process. This inner work is a process, and you actually have to approach it with a sense of, like, I'm gonna tell you the truth, the way it started with me, it was like, okay, I am tired of not having the results that I believe that I should have in my life. So it's like I could see where I was in my life, but I could also see where I wanted to go. And then I was like, okay, so how do I get through the gap of where I'm at and where I want to be? And so with that, it brings you into becoming present with yourself. And when you become present, you take a position where you're able to observe yourself more
Right.
and wisely. And the tough part is being very honest. It is a facing self type moment. And sometimes the hardest thing for us to do is just to take a moment to turn around and see ourselves for not what we desire to be, but who we actually are at that current and present time.
No doubt. I want to encourage that practice for everybody. Anybody that's listening or watching this show right now is to do that work. It's with an E, but but to really to seek out doing the work, because and it is hard. It's very, very hard, because we rarely ever want to kind of sit with ourselves and listen to ourselves, because we're going to be the most critical of ourselves. We have a hard enough time with other people being critical about us. But I would tell you that when we are critical of ourselves, the voice that we hear sometimes can be so damaging. But
Mm-hmm.
the work of hearing that voice and turning that into something that's going to be more productive for where we will be on the other side of that. Talk to us a little bit about that journey, that step.
About getting to the other side of the work part. And I'm so glad that you asked that, because I had to actually tell myself, how difficult it was to do inner work for me. So before I
Me
could actually
too.
go forward and help people or other women do their own work, I realized that there is no one way to actually go about observing yourself, And what I try to do is share my story on how I actually did that, and allow women to build a map for themselves through those steps. And so one of the toughest things is, like I said, being able to slow down and to actually have the resonance. It's a process, because things happen in degrees. It's a gradient. It just doesn't, it starts off really rough, you know, and then over time that pain actually transfers into a pleasure. I realized like it was so hard. And I related to basketball. When I first started off with basketball, I didn't know what I was doing. I felt like I had two left feet. I couldn't really dribble with my left hand. I didn't know the proper way of shooting. And so as I began to develop my game, that is what I had to do. I actually had to practice and work on my skill sets. And so I would say it's the same thing. It's being able to practice yourself, practice things. And it is awkward in the beginning, and it takes time. And I'm a lover of words, and educating myself on what the true meaning of certain words that we use. And I realized that awkward actually is not just a feeling, it's a direction. And so
Come on.
awkward means
You better
turn.
you better come on with the come on.
Yes, I'm like, I was awkward because I was outward facing. And it's people would be amazed how it's just to make that one curve, that little arc where you turn inward to self. So most often, if you're feeling awkward about studying yourself or educating yourself on who you are in this present moment, it is because you are having thoughts in your mind about other people, not your own thoughts. And that is different. I realized that I heard a lot of the voices of what other people were thinking about what I was doing, not my own. So I tell people that taking time away, falling back, slowing down yourself, taking more of that time to literally isolate, solitude, to sit with yourself and to be able to sit and meditate. I didn't meditate so I could get to see what was to get quiet. I actually sat and meditate to see what was so loud and
Come
why I
on.
couldn't hear myself. And then I was like, I hear everyone else's voices about what they believe I am and who they believe I am, but who I could not hear was myself.
Right. I often call that chatter.
Yep.
That chatter, and then you have to try to get to a point where you can be still and allow for that chatter to just quiet.
Yes.
A lot of people are even scared of that quiet. They're afraid of that quiet. But I want to I want to, there's so much I want to unpack with what you just said.
Let's get into it. Come on.
Girl, look, okay, let's go. So the first thing that I want to get into in unpacking that, the first layer here is when you first were able to talk about the things that were traumatizing to you, because you knew being able to talk about that was going to help with your own healing journey. If you can recall the first time you had to talk about that.
The first time I had to talk about it was when I was 16. So I tell people it's such a heavy word. Like when I say it, and I'm like, I'm going to say the word, the phrase sexual abuse, and I try to let people, because know that I want you to, to guard yourself, because sometimes that is triggering for other people because they may have experienced it. For
No doubt.
me, I did my work, so I can freely have these discussions about it. And I believe like that's what it is. Like I had to go through it, and not quickly. I had to walk through this process so that I could really see what was deeply bothering me about that. And so, but yes, it happened when I was 5. And the thing about it is that it happened with a family member. And so because of a family member, you can imagine feeling the love of a family member and then have it be contradicted about something that was done that made you feel like you did not love them. And
Correct.
so it's that. If it's different when it's a stranger or complete, it's like you almost can own that hate or that anger. But when it's
Correct.
a family member, it's like, I am so confused right now.
It's confusing
And
because it's the violation and the love.
it
And
is.
unfortunately, so many then connote violation with love.
Exactly. So, as you can see, that set a tone, because even as adults, we have trouble crossing over our emotions or handling a contradiction of emotions.
Yes.
And that's a lot about the inner work, about how to arrange and structure your emotional set, so that we can actually start to observe ourselves better. So at 5, this happened. At 16 is when, which was 11 years later, 16 is when I felt like the memories of it had haunted me for so long that it was time for me to open my mouth and say something to my parents. And I spoke to my cousin who had experienced something as well, with the as for sexual abuse. And I knew that she did. And you know how family members talk, like when you have your close cousins, and we were around the same age. And
Yeah.
she was my comfort space to trust before I went to my parents. And she was
Sure.
like, your mom helped me, and go talk to her. Like, really, like, go ahead and get it. I think you need to get this off of your chest and say it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And I did. And it was an interesting experience, because I told my parents at the age of 16, and the reaction of them was not what I thought. And so at that time, it was just like a don't say anything. It was my mom who was really, she was really shook. And at 16, I didn't know why.
Right.
Literally recently, this past year, as I sat with a family member and did my own documentary for us to talk about this, to start uncovering things and not being fearful of turning on the lights in the room about things that have happened within family. Because when I did turn on those lights, let me tell you, I realized that my parents did not know what to do in that space, because they had both experienced sexual abuse in their childhood from a family member as well. And so I want you to see these cycles, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
so that happens, and that makes you nervous or scared to share, and how you really have to get in a space of not worrying about everyone else, because I was so concerned what my family members would think about me coming out and opening my mouth and my voice about this thing. And I promise you, spirit was urging me, like, it is time, it is time, it is time right now. You must face it, because people need this messaging, and
Yes.
you have to be the one to go through it so that you can allow other people the encouragement or the inspiration to do the same, and know that I did feel broken in my spirit for a while, but that healing is a real thing when it no longer has power or control over you. So that is when I first talked about it at 16. And then I didn't visit it again until very recently, up to about like maybe a few years ago, because it really kind of made me sink deeper within myself. And
Sure.
the very next year, I went to college. And going out to
Mm-hmm.
college, a part of me was just, that pain was just locked in. And then
Mm-hmm.
it actually intensified how awkward I felt around people. So I always wanted to do things for validation. That's when you say that you're such a nice person. You're so sweet. I was a complete overgiver. And
Mm-hmm.
I know that that was rooted in my childhood because I never felt like, I felt like something may have been wrong with me, because
Sure.
why would I have to experience this or go through it?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know, how to deal with that. And so it actually, growing up, I became a person who was so outward focused and so concerned about being liked and wanting people, like needing that validation, because my value had went down, my confidence, my insecurities.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about, I told you recently, I was like, insecurities cost a lot, a whole lot.
A
And
lot.
they
Goodness
eat up,
gracious.
and you
Yes,
always have to
indeed.
do something to feed those insecurities. And then I realized I was wore out, Leah. I was
Mm-hmm.
tired. I was mentally and emotionally exhausted. And I was like, why can't I see any of my dreams come to fruition?
Right,
And
right.
that's when I took time to dive into myself to say, what is going on with you? Why do you behave like this? Why do you not know how to say no? Why don't you
Mm-hmm.
have healthy boundaries? Why must you always be liked by other people? What is with this? And
Mm-hmm.
so that part kind of started me on my inner work journey about the age of 30.
Okay. So in regards to that, do you feel like you're dialing away from, pivoting away from, and this is the after the whistle question that I ask every guest. That was the moment when you were able to kind of do the work of healing, as opposed to, because you knew you really weren't leaning on, and sometimes I call it a facade of being this basketball star. So often when we have that in front of us, there's the things that are happening inward to us, or that we're feeling, or that we're thinking, everything that everybody else sees, and then we're already outward focused. We're already a pleasers, and we have this other platform that we're on. Do you think that now that that has not been such a was not such a priority as far as your day to day, that it forced you perhaps to hear yourself and then now focus on doing the work?
Yes, what and let me know if I understand you fully and clearly,
Sure.
on what you're asking. But the at the age of 30 is when I hit a wall. And what happened was that I had recently got married, and I got married, and then, I mean, to the love of my life. And as I was there, I realized that I didn't have the whole marriage, everything, and where I was in my life at that age. I was just like, this is not how I planned to start off my marriage, to um how 30 would look for me. Like, how you plan all this stuff out and you're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
by age of 30. And I realized that from the time I left Baylor University and was drafted into the WNBA, that the time from 21 until 30 was a complete blur for me. And
Mm-hmm.
I barely remember what was happening, because I was seeking so much validation. When I started to really lean into the sport of basketball, which helped me tremendously, with my confidence and just channeling some of that energy. It set up a perfect set when I was just like, oh, here's my chance to really show my family what I desire to be for them by going into the league. So I was like, I'm drafted. I get a chance to be the superhero. Well, by the age of 30, I realized I had entered in as a superhero, and I was leaving out feeling like a slave. And, and that really wears on you. So that was the moment where I was like, what is happening? This is supposed to be my happiest time of my life. I'm married. I'm just starting out in my life, but I was really down because I didn't have financial security. We were living in a one-bedroom apartment. My parents were going through a difficult time. His parents were going through something, and I was just realized that I had never really emotionally left my nest. And it was time for me to grow up and to actually own my own emotions and my thoughts and feelings about my own life, and not what my parents or my family members thought. And it took me about a 10-year journey to just discover myself. And then I took another 2 years just to sit with all the data that I had collected over time. And
Nice.
so, yeah, that was a process. And that's why I tell women, sometimes we don't necessarily have that process, but someone who is, or that time or the desire. But the fact that I did, that's what I want to help and pay forward, to save you the time that I did that took me so long, and to some of the steps that I, misguided steps I had. But to help women say, let me tell you how I map myself out. And maybe you can miss some of those pitfalls, but still make this journey your own.
Yes, no doubt, no doubt. So I know that you have a forthcoming book, Hidden in Division.
Yes.
Um, so where are we with that?
Look, I'm so excited, and I like that was one of the things I had to actually halt and put on a still, because it is coming, and like very soon. My projection is for this September release, but even having ownership, thank you, even having ownership of that, of like how fast and how quickly I wanted to move with that, because people will take you really quick and say, hey, editors are here, book here, give me this, and let's move. And even though I was working with an amazing company that is helping me with the production of it, I realized that the speed that I was going was too quick. This was not about the money. This was
Sure.
not about just so I can say, oh, I'm an author. I really wanted to actually give women the sauce. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes
Right.
that takes time to cook down. So I realized that in my womanhood, I can pump the brakes when I need to have the brakes pumped. So I did that, but the book is in production. I'm going to release that very soon, like I said, projected for September. And I'm excited for the release of the book, and also some workshops around hidden in division.
Nice. Okay, so you have to promise us that you'll perhaps allow me to announce that when it happens on my
Absolutely.
platform. And before, I mean, I would be remiss. Before, we got to do a pivot, a hard pivot. It's not really even a hard pivot. Your new role as the executive director of the WNBA World Champion Las Vegas Aces. Talk to me about that. And I know that you have just been out there maybe only a couple months now, but
Yes.
talk to us about that, and how have you infused your work with inner work into your new role?
I love it because it has been a beautiful segue, I call it a full circle moment, because this is actually the franchise that I was drafted to. So I
Yes.
started at Utah and came on in, and I tell people I came in and I knew basketball, but I did not know the business of basketball. And as we discussed, being that awkward young lady that needed some time to develop, I came in and immediately came out and went overseas. And I thought that I was exiled, and that's where all the players who didn't make it to the coveted WNBA went. And I started to really doubt myself. And so going through that time period, but to now be in this space, it was the very thing that led me right back here. And that's what's so wild. Like, I had to do my inner work, because you take some of those hard knocks, but when you
Yes.
don't let it knock you down, you're able to come back in and you realize, no, this was my lane. I belong here. I have value to add in this space. And so now, being the executive director for the ACES Foundation came off the heels of me doing inner work. And so I would say that I'm a hybrid. I happen to be an entrepreneur who has a corporate job, but it's amazing that, because you're able to illustrate the things how you so desire. So I do a lot of inner work in this space. I love philanthropy. I love giving back to community. And because I went through that pain, it has now become my passion. And I really want to reach out to young ladies, to adult women, but to help really in the space of basketball, because playing that sport actually helped me tremendously, because it gave me a place to channel my energy. And so being here with the Aces, and like you said, world champs, I mean, women's basketball is in a whole shift. So I'm excited to be here.
Right, right. Well, so you have a quote that is very inspirational. And so I'd like you to read that to our guests and just tell us a little bit about why that resonates so strongly with you.
Actually, that was one, As a Man Thinketh. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with that book, but as the quote says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And it's so beautiful because that was one of the first books my dad gave me, and I think he gave it to me because it was a thin book, but very impactful. I didn't become an avid reader until later in life, but diving into that book, it made me start to realize that it was not only the action that I put into motion, but it was the thoughts that I had associated with the action that I was doing. So it was how I thought about myself, how I felt about myself that really started to, I guess, have impact with me. And so a lot, like we said, this work is an inner thing that has an outer result, but it begins within yourself in the unseen or in the spiritual realm that, that we can't see, but that our senses pick up on and that we can feel. And so it just resonates deeply, and that the way that we think truly shapes our outer life.
No doubt. I feel like your skill set in working, doing the inner work, and primarily focusing on women easily helps to support how you support youth initiatives in your role. And talk to us a little bit about how you're planning to support not even just youth, but the other stakeholders in the greater Las Vegas is initially the greater Las Vegas community and ultimately everybody.
Yes, I have this thing that I feel that when we are living in a world where adults are nervous about children and children are nervous about adults or have some sort of fear, that makes a very interesting world for us to live in. And I would like to bridge those gaps because it's so important to hold on to the inner child of yourself. It's so important to stay connected with every version of yourself that you have experienced from childhood on through your adulthood into your womanhood. And I feel a great responsibility to young ladies to show them that there is a path, and that even as an adult and as a woman, I still get nervous. I still get scared. I still have anxieties about things. And I want them to see that even though there is a time gap, that there are a lot of similarities that we have in common. And so it's important to talk to other women, because when I talk to them about their inner childhood and things they wish they would have known, then they're like, oh my God, I wish someone would have talked to me about that. And so it encourages them to become mentors and friends and establish relationship with younger girls to help them cross that bridge over into adulthood and eventually into womanhood.
Yes, yes. Outstanding, outstanding. Well, listen, you have been so incredibly generous with your time with us today, but I need to see if I can push the envelope just a little bit and see if you can just hang out for just a few more minutes
I
as
sure
we
can.
good as we because I've told everybody that I was going to share some behind the scene things with what happened while we were in Vegas. That's just like I feel like I'm committing such a crime.
You're not. Listen, these are the things like, so we were in Vegas, so what we're going to share is the All-Star stuff. So we want to hype that up. They got to see what went down at All-Star, because we want them to come back and check us out when we're in Phoenix. Still going to be on the West Coast, but next year in Phoenix. So I want them to get excited, hyped up, and see why the WNBA is pushing the motto that it is her time to play, because it is our time.
Indeed. So, okay, so while I was in Vegas, some of the things that I was able to experience were just going to watch you do the wonderful work that you do in the community, which, that's such a passion of mine. So that was easy. But to also hang out with the WNBA live. And
Look
this
at you,
was the me.
look, girl. Come on, Leah.
So wait, let's talk about this real quick. Because did you have a chance to go over to the Mille booth at WNBA Live?
I did. I swooped over in there so I could get some samples because a sister needs her hair products. And so I got
Okay.
some good shampoo and some conditioners and all that good stuff. But the WNBA Live event, the interactive thing, it was just amazing. There were so many things to like go see and do. And I wish I had more time to, take more photo ops, but it was amazing.
Me too. The sponsors that are showing up and showing out for the WNBA, U.S. Bank, American Express, Wilson, Mille, as we talked about, and they are going to be featured guests in a later episode. It turns out, and again, 1 degree of separation, I realized that the marketing director is my cousin.
No way.
I
Really?
promise you, it was
That is amazing
just
stuff.
through conversation, and the first thing that she said was that she went to college in Minnesota. Then it so happened that I was a guest speaker for her professor in Minnesota at McAllister College. It's a whole thing. So make sure everybody tunes back in for that episode because it's going to be incredible. She said that she wasn't an athlete, but she married one. It's the cutest things. I've got pictures and stuff to show you about that. But I also wanted to just talk about your time at the Doolittle Community Center. That was so much fun.
That
When
was amazing.
yes, yes, I loved what you said. That pitch that is a picture of the Las Vegas Aces video. What is her title?
Katie is she's the creative director for the
Yes,
ASICS.
and
She's
she's
Emmy Award winning at that, I must say. So she is a woman that definitely she knows her craft.
no doubt. And we first met when she came to do a feature on you guys in Dallas when we were at the Final Four. Um, just her way of storytelling with pictures and with video is incredible. And I could just hang out with her like all day, every day.
Yeah, she's phenomenal, and the reason why she's just such an amazing person because she's just a kind heart, but also she has a keen talent of being able to tell the stories that other people may not are not telling. Like she's able to like go in and bring out a different perspective that really allows anyone who's watching to get a better sense of what's really happening. So we're not just ball players, but that we are mothers, we are wives, we are multifaceted. We have own businesses, we run different, things within our community and entrepreneurs and just a slew of things. And so I love that she brings that into it because then it gives your story texture and it
No,
just adds multiple layers, and then that's when it becomes a multi-dimensional type experience for the person who really is like, I'm into the sports but I'm also into her, like I like her.
right.
I love that.
Exactly. That's exactly right. The word that's I'm a word person too. It's another way we connect. The word immersed comes out. She has that keen ability so that
Yes.
you would feel immersed in whatever she's shooting and the spaces that she's put you in with her
Mhm.
pictures.
She puts you in the story, right?
No doubt, no
Yep.
doubt. And after that, and again, it was like back to back to back to back to back. We had so many things to do in 1, 2, and 3 days. It was, I'm girl. When you told me, and we're just gonna be real transparent. When you told me yesterday that you were like, look, my body is telling me that I'm not getting up right now.
Go back to sleep.
I understood that and I respected that. And those are those things that we have to start really thinking about as we're living our life. We don't want, just the time to just go by and we're not truly living our life and feeling the life that we're living. You know what I'm saying? So,
Exactly. Let me tell you, that is the true cancel culture. I'm like, we need to know how to say, I thought I was going to be able to do something, but here is the current thing. Because this is a ever evolving experience that we're having. I wish things could be always set in stone, but people have to adopt flexibility based on how they are currently feeling. And there were just some things that started to line up when I got up. I was like, my head was throbbing, my feet were throbbing. I was just like, oh my gosh. And I always want to give my best. And, especially for people that I have, beautiful connections with, like yourself. And I was like, look, I just can't halfway do it, Leah. I'd rather tell you, let's postpone it on true sisterhood so that I could be present and give you my best. And
No,
sometimes that just takes a moment to reset and regenerate. So I just needed that moment. So yes,
yes.
thank you for having that time to
Oh,
say I get it.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt. So back to what I was saying. So we left the Doolittle Community Center. You had another engagement before we caught back up to you
Yeah.
at the WNBA Live Center Court, where they set up a clinic that was co-hosted by the Junior NBA, WNBA, as well as the Aces. The three of you all come together for that. So the Junior NBA clinic is
Yes.
where
So
we
it's
went
the
next.
Exactly. So it's the junior league, and this is a WNBA and NBA initiative across the board. And it just completed its first year actually for the junior league. And this is where different cities and sites, I think they're looking to be in each city that there's a team. But they just did a couple of test sites where they're like, okay, we're going to start it in these markets. And then it allows a person to come in and say, I would love to coach a junior league team. And then the NBA and WNBA supports that by giving the resources needed, like jerseys, and then run of just show for what you're going to do, and helps package this to where it's really easy for the person who says, this is the way I want to give back. I want to
Right.
give back by actually helping coach these kids, showing them different skill sets. And it's not really about the competition. It is
Not at
actually
all.
about the sport and what you can learn by playing the sport, not only the mental side, but as I've said before, Leah, physical health is mental health. That is wellness. That these are all connected. Your body, your mind, and your soul are connected. You really, if you move one, you're going to move the other. So helping these children in a space of letting them play, exercise, laugh, mess up, have a safe space to do these things is really does a supreme job on their mental health and wellness.
Sure.
So
So another look that from that day that really was just adorable to me. First of all, the energy was just so on point. The energy by the coaches and the players, the WNBA, the junior NBA coaches that were there. It just was so infectious that the kids couldn't help but have fun. You know what I'm saying? Because they just, everybody was just so hyped, and then the kids were like, "Wait a minute, yeah, we're about to have a whole lot of fun right now." And it was just
man,
so, we talked about, like, I'm so in my element in those spaces. I've spent so many years, well over 30. I know I don't look like it, but well over
not
30
at all,
years
girl.
of doing that type of work, and I never get tired of it. I absolutely never get tired of it. Sometimes I can get a little critical when I don't see it happening at an excellent level, because I really feel like you can't get in front of young people, in front of kids, and not bring your best. But that definitely is not what happened that day. It was incredible, and I loved when you said to the kids, and I'm going to come to each of your stations and see how you're doing, and that was huge. And the fact that you said it and then did it, and so then the kids could see, and it is those little things when young people can hear an adult say that they're going to do something and then they actually do it. That is the first step in teaching those kids accountability.
Absolutely. And I meant it because that's my sweet spot too. I always say that I love to work with kids and and call it playing, and play with adults and call it work. So
Right.
it makes a good balance for me, but that's how I stay young. They actually give me energy. I love to see them get hyped up. It reminds you that you were that age. It reminds you that you didn't have any other worries in the world except what was happening right then and there. And I mean, kids are amazing. They yell for absolutely no reason. They get hyped.
Exactly.
Hyped. They are just balls of energy. I mean, you get to see the energy in its purest, rawest form. And I think that's what's so beautiful to watch. And it feeds me my spirit in ways that, just overflows. So I was really happy to spend that time with them, to high five them. I had a little kid cross me up a little bit, made a shot on me. And
Uh-oh.
they did, so being able to, that was my highlight. Those are the all stars, if you ask me.
Yes.
They're the all stars, and I would love to continue to pour into them. I tell people, rich people that, I say rich, that means that you have a lot of things within you that make you well. And I want rich people who are well that want to feel poor, meaning they want to feel a pour out and they want to feel a
Girl, you
out of
better
the
preach. P-O-U-R. That's
P-O-U-R. I
I
need you to feel
love
that
it.
pour. Let's go ahead and tip over. Like that's why your cup must be full, and that's why it should run over, right? And you have
Right.
to have the energy so that you can do that and feed it forward. And because they'll see that, and they will want to mimic that until they master it in their own unique way. About I want to be able to do that too. It looked like she had fun. I was actually out there shooting and having a lot of fun with those kids
Yes, yes.
because I have
So,
two young ones myself that keep me
mm-hmm,
busy.
mm-hmm,
But the more
mm-hmm.
I'm present with them and not worrying about work and what I got to do over here and this, I mean, like it brings you present to be with them right there because they are so high energy. You have to be present with them.
Absolutely. Okay, so got a couple more segments. I know I'm pushing the envelope, but we've got to talk about brunch real quick. We've got to
Okay.
talk about the brunch. So the National Basketball Retired Players Association hosted a all-star brunch, and Sylvia Crawley Span and Rusha Brown, two members of the NBRPA. I always have to remember
It's a
how those
mouthful,
letters go.
honestly. Listen, I know it's an acronym that's a mouthful, so don't worry about
It's a
it.
it's a whole thing, but it's such an important. They're called the Legends now. I was made an honorary member of the Houston chapter a few years after I moved here because they just partnered with a lot of the initiatives I was doing in the community here. And once they knew that I had worked for the WNBA, they're like, okay, we're going to make you kind of an honorary member to our local chapter. I'm like, that's great, but I
That's
don't need the
beautiful.
title, but I just want to be involved in any way that I can. And so for them to feature Tall Girls United at that brunch was just an honor. But I would tell you the thing that just warmed my heart was just listening to all you guys be able to just open up and just talk about your experience being in the league and what you're doing now, like how the being in the league affected you and the work that you guys are all doing now as professionals outside of the game. But just having that platform to be really vulnerable, that was so beautiful. And that's what I hope that we can bring to that brunch every year. We want to continue to partner with the NBRPA and be able to just create that space, that safe space for you all to get together because it's not often that you guys are able to get together.
It is. And you remember that song? I'm aging like for real, for real. You know that song? It's a meeting in the ladies' room. Mm.
Yeah.
And I need that real soon. Okay.
Yes.
So I realize a restroom is whatever you make it. Because women, we have a lot of conversations in our restrooms and we take pictures in there. We fix our makeup and we fix our hair and whatever is happening. And it gives a new perspective on a rest room, a
Yes.
room that allows you to rest. And
Hmm.
that means put down things you're carrying. That is what a safe space, that you can put down whatever is heavy and you don't have to worry about being the only person in that space that's putting things down to get that rest, which is actually opening up. And like you said, that vulnerability, because this is a private space, it's a very intimate space. And I wish women would provide more rest rooms for each other where you can come and refresh yourself. And so
Yes.
that's what that brunch was like for me. I
Mm-hmm.
love hearing the stories and the history. I am familiar with some of the names, but I don't know the story behind these names. And so for me to connect and to hear the stories and the history, it solidifies who you are in that space even more when you can know the people that came along and paved the way,
Mm-hmm.
and started
Right.
this. And so you always give honor what came before, which allows you to give energy to what is coming behind. And so that's what I like in those type of exchanges, seeing the women that are just sharing themselves and their stories and their experience in this league, but also as mothers, like I said, and wives and people who are in business. These women are actually in business. So it's beautiful to have all that in one room and just to love on each other and see what happens when we get together.
Indeed. It was so powerful. I would tell you one of the point guards, I forget her name right now, but she was so cute. We were giving away as a little token our giraffe, which is, of course, our Tall Girls United spirit animal, right? And
Yes.
so she said, well, listen, I'm not 6 foot tall, but we just want you to put a little giraffe over in the corner. We just want to be over in the corner with you guys. And I said, well, we actually will allow you to be a part of us if you have tall tendencies.
Listen, I tell women that are shorter, they have tall girl energy.
Yes.
So don't worry about it. Even if you played basketball, but you never played professionally, you are part of the W. Okay.
Yes.
And so that's how I feel. It's your energy that gets you the enter into the room. And so I think that it's just sister circles supporting other circles. And we're there for the circles that need help. And right now it is Black women and in this space, especially with leadership. And I am loving what I'm seeing because we make up a large percentage of the WNBA. And so, so we should have a voice in how things are playing out in it.
Indeed, and I know that we're setting up the platforms for that through the NBRPA and other initiatives that are popping up, and we're all trying to just galvanize all at the same time right now. This is the time, so it's a good time to be a woman. It's a good time to be a Black woman. It's a great time to just be around other like-minded individuals as well.
Absolutely.
But listen, sister, I am so grateful for you sharing your time and your expertise and your energy and your love and your light with us today on Coach Leah's After the Whistle. And is there anything that you want to tell us about where we can find you? What are your social media platforms? Girl, how can we get at you?
Absolutely. Look, absolutely. I am at the inner work, which is it's an underscore in between the and inner work. Inner work is spelled with an E. So INNERWERK. And the inner work on Facebook. So those are the places where you can find me. And I have a lot of things on there, videos and other things that can help inspire, little tap ins to help people along their journey and along their way. So
Nice, nice. All right, hun. Well, love you so much. Come back to see us anytime. Is there anything that if there's ever anything that you need to share, you've got a home here at Coach Leah's After the Whistle. I love you so much, and I cannot wait to see you again soon at the Final Four, perhaps,
at the
in
Final
Cleveland.
Four. Oh, yes. Well, then that's where I'm going to have to be. I want to tell you that congratulations on all that you're doing. You are light yourself, and that's the like-mindedness. It's the uniqueness of people, how they hold their light. And so thank you for letting your shine to inspire others, for creating a platform for women to come and to speak and to talk and share their stories. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, it's my honor. Okay, so listen, Danielle's getting out of here. We've just got a couple things that we want to share with you before we get out of here. We've just got maybe 2 minutes. 2 minutes, Dougie Fresh, you're on. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. My bad. Okay, so, well, of course, you can't be at All-Star Weekend without going to the All-Star Game. And so while at the game, you guys, oh my gosh, let me tell you the energy just being at the WNBA All-Star Game in Las Vegas was just so much fun because it was really great seeing the All-Stars being able to just enjoy each other's company, and also the WNBA players that weren't selected as All-Stars that just came to attend. And so I'll be definitely showing you some more behind the scenes things with that on our platforms. So definitely go to YouTube, definitely go to our Facebook page, definitely check out Insight News, our print edition, www.insightnews.com. We'll be putting our photos up and telling you a few more stories about what happened during All-Star Weekend. And it was just an incredible weekend. And I know that you truly enjoyed listening to Danielle Fontenot and her work that she's doing now that she's not playing basketball anymore, but really pouring back in to that space, but more importantly, pouring into the lives of just everybody, including in particular women. So, well, listen, that is going to do it for this week's this week's episode of Coach Leah's After the Whistle. Be sure to like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. Definitely subscribe to our Insight News channel. We're on Black Press USA. You'll be able to find us on our podcast platforms, Apple, Amazon, Spotify. And again, you'll be able to read about this and a lot of other things in Insight News, either our print editions or online. Have an amazing rest of your week. Bye-bye now.